Alright, today we did 4-5 slope-intercept form, so you're going to be expected to do a couple things. First, to find the slope and the y-intercept of any given line, and then the second, to graph a line using the slope and the y-intercept. The intercept is where a line crosses an axis. So we have what's called the y-intercept is where the line crosses the y-axis. This is what's known as the y-axis. This is our x-axis, so we go to where that line crosses right here, the y-axis, and it becomes known as the y-intercept. The x-intercept is where a line crosses the x-axis. So on this line where it passes the x-axis right here, that's known as the x-intercept. The most basic graph that you will see will look like this. It kind of has that 45-degree angle, and more importantly, we talk about slope and intercept. The slope is 1. That means it will go up 1, over 1, up 1, over 1, up 1, over 1, and it will take you to every point on that line. The other part that's really significant about this most basic graph is that the y-intercept, where it crosses the y-axis, which is this axis, is right at 0. Slope-intercept form, one I'll expect you to know is y equals mx plus b. If you remember, we did m earlier when we had two ordered pairs, and it was y1 minus y2 over x1 minus x2. These m values are exactly the same. So do you guys remember what that m stood for? If you remember, it stood for slope. So if you, anytime you have that value next to x, we identify it as being slope as long as y is isolated, all by itself. The b value is what's known as the y-intercept, and this is where the graph crosses the y-axis. So here I'm going to give you an equation. It says to identify the slope and the y-intercept. So the first thing we're going to do is y equals 1/2 x plus 1. The slope is that value next to x, so it's 1/2, as long as y is all by itself. Your intercept then is what follows, so it is a positive 1. On b, your slope again is that value next to x, so negative 3/4, and your y-intercept is what follows, and at the end we have a minus 2. That means on our graph it will cross at negative 2, and then we would go down 3 over 4 to get a line somewhat like that. On the last one, y equals 12, if we were to graph that, it means that we would go up 12, I went by 2's on this graph here, and we would have what's known as a horizontal line. If you remember, anytime you see a horizontal line, your slope is 0, and our y-intercept, where it crosses the y-axis, is right at 12. When we just have an equation x equals negative 4, it will look like this. You'll have a vertical line, and a vertical line, if you remember, slope is undefined. Your y-intercept is where it crosses the y-axis. Since they're parallel, they will never intersect, so there is none. Okay, on your second example, it says write an equation of a line in slope-intercept form with a given slope and the y-intercept. So you're going to follow that form we just learned, y equals mx plus b, and fill in the m and the b. So here our slope is negative 5/2, so you'll write y equals negative 5 over 2x plus the intercept, which is negative 8. Or you could just write minus 8 at the end. On the second one, same idea, y equals our slope, 5, x plus our intercept of 12. Our y-intercept. On C, same idea. y equals our slope, negative 1/2 x, plus our intercept of 0. And you can write it that way, or you can leave off the 0 and just write it as y equals negative 1/2 x. Those are equivalent. On example 3, I'm going to actually give you the graph and ask you to come up with the line, or the equation of the line. So, to come up with that equation, you got to find m and the y-intercept. I would start with the y-intercept. The y-intercept is where it crosses the y-axis. So I'm going to come down the y-axis till right here, and that puts me at 2. From this point, I'm going to get to the next point on my line. So it says to go up 1 over 1, up 1 over 1. So I have a slope of up 1 over 1. And if I use the form y equals mx plus b, then I write y equals m, which is 1 over 1, x plus b. Now I could simplify that and write y equals 1x plus 2, or simply x plus 2. So same idea here. The first thing you want to identify is that y-intercept. And this y-intercept is located at negative 3. I'm going to start there and go up 1, 2, 3, 4 over 2, up 4, and I went back 2. That gives me a slope. Up 4, back 2. This reduces because they're both even to give you negative 2 over 1. So we go to write the equation y equals m. We had negative 2 over 1, or just negative 2 minus 3, or plus negative 3. Okay, on the last example here, example 4, I'm going to ask you to graph each ordered pair. The first one says we go back 2, down 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Over 0, down 2, over 2, up 1, and over 4, up 4. I have one of those points wrong. Sorry. This one, it says over 2, up 1, and then over 4, up 4. That will give me my line. You should recognize that it's linear, and that once you have this line, there's multiple ways to identify your slope and your intercept, but I think the easiest is to pick them off your graph. You start with that y-intercept, and that's where it crosses the y-axis. So here it's at negative 2. You could also get that information from the chart. It's the y value when x is 0. And then our slope, I'm going to start at that y-intercept and count until I get to its next point. So we have to go up 1, 2, 3 over 2. And again, that could be found different ways. You could find the rate of change by using the chart, or you could use two values and use our slope formula, y1 minus y2 over x1 minus x2, to come up with that slope. Once you have that, you need to write it in slope-intercept form. So y equals m 3 over 2x plus b, a negative 2. So again, you're going to start by graphing. It says to go back 2, up 4, back 1, up 2, over 0, up 0, and over 2, down 4. And graph the line. And from there, I would identify that y-intercept, and that's where it crosses that y-axis. So my y-intercept is at 0, or you could use the table of values. And our slope, starting at that point, I'm going to go up 2 and back 1 to get to that other point on my graph. And once I have those two pieces of information, I can write the equation y equals, and I can leave that as 2 over negative 1x plus 0, or I could write it as just negative 2x, and either one of those will be acceptable. They're both equivalent. Okay, that will help you with your slope-intercept worksheet. Good luck.